All right, Femi mentioned mobile phones, so I'd like you to do something right now. I'd like you to take out your phone and turn on your camera and turn around and try and take a picture of the person behind you. Now, obviously, the people in the last row might have to take a picture of the person in front of you, and you might have to wait until the people in front of you actually don't have their camera in front of their faces. But take a picture of them. I want you to do that right now. If someone doesn't want their picture taken, find a creative way of doing it without showing their faces as well. All right? Great. This is something that you're used to doing when you're on a holiday and you want to take a nice picture of, the sunset, or when you're at a family gathering, or even if you just want to share your face or your food on social media. This is something that is estimated to be done in this year, 2014, close to 1 trillion times, which that's a million of a million, just to kind of get that number into your heads. And up until 2012, it was estimated that there had been about 3.8 trillion photos taken ever. So that's just to get an increase into your head a little bit. Taking a photograph, have a look at that picture that you've just taken as well. It might be of a person that you've never met before, someone totally new to you, or someone you've just met outside while you were chatting to them. You've done more than that, though. You've actually interacted with someone new. You've taken a memory of this event, and you might recognize that person later on in the street again, just because you've got that picture, and you might review it later on again. So you've created an interaction and an engagement, and I think that's something that we can take into the community. For the last 2 years, I've been running a photography project for people recovering from substance misuse. It was very much about just that, taking pictures of people, of your environment, and of your community. The project was funded by HAGA, the Haringey Advisory Group on Alcohol, and later on in collaboration with St. Mungo's Broadway. It was thought up not as a therapy group. There were plenty of really wonderful ones at the service already, and I'm not a therapist. We thought it up as a service user involvement and development group. To get people in recovery to start thinking about their lives outside of addiction again, and to encourage them in the change that they're going through. Many might have lost their jobs, contacted their families and friends, and they might have had a sort of a tunnel vision for the past 10 years, off license and home, dealer and home. Nothing else mattered as much as the drugs. So the idea behind services involvement was to expand that horizon a little bit. I also wanted to do something else. I wanted to kind of use photography as a tool against stigma and as a way to record mementos for people whose views may be marginalized. The visual representations of people in the media with substance misuse issues are very much interpretations and not so much people with substance misuse issues telling their own story. And I was interested to see what those people might have to tell people in recovery. So we went out and we bought cameras and we borrowed cameras because we didn't have a lot of money. And we started with a plan for people to meet once a week for 2 hours and to just go on photo walks and see what happens. And of course, what really happened was people did absolutely brilliantly. This is one of the first pictures ever created. So we went on a photo walk. We had just come outside of the service. And there's a pub next door to the service, funnily enough. And Courage is a brand of a beer. And the sign was on that pub. And it's slightly destroyed, etc. And so this gets a whole new meaning when it's taken by someone who may have struggled with alcohol before, because for them the real courage is to not turn up at the pub, but to go to the service next door, which is just a couple of meters further down, and that's the real courage. you have to understand that most pictures in this whole project wasn't necessarily so much about just taking pictures of alcohol or drugs or that, but very much about what people saw, what people really saw in their environment and what they saw through the lens of the viewfinder. So I'm just going to show you a couple of more pictures. Very typical street scene, slightly sort of changed with the color afterwards in Photoshop. It's also a skill we taught. That's just a mural up on Tottenham High Road and a slight sort of crack through the flower there. This is a couple of found objects pulled together, and the title of this was Love and War, thinking about the gloves brand as warrior and then the little heart next to it. And yeah, just given a whole new meaning by the person that actually took that picture. And I have to say as well, this guy who shot this picture shot it one day after coming out of rehab. So was really quite nervous and anxious about being out on the street and doing something like this. And of course, just lots of dog pictures, lots of pictures of just the people of Tottenham. And flowers, obviously. Someone just, you can't see it very well here, but someone just playing football in the fog. And the Tour de France going through London. Okay, so this very quickly, because it was so brilliant, and we kind of recognized that this is not just, this is not just a charity project, this is actually really good art that's being created here. We went out and exhibited it. So we went, first of all, to the local library, and then to a Starbucks, and to the 639 Center, which is an enterprise center, who have been very supportive of us, to just show our pictures and under sort of different themes. And it sort of culminated a little bit in presenting the pictures at the V&A event. We also created a blog. It's hagaphotography.com. And so check that one out as well. So what I would often hear from people attending these groups was how this really made them think differently about and look differently at their environment and at their community. How they would have never looked at some detail before and never seen its real beauty. There's something that happens when you go out and you take pictures on the street, you approach people, asking them to take their pictures. You gain confidence, which is very important. You get to be amazed at even the most simple things around you. We even wrote and collated a photography book, which service users aptly called Clean Visions. That's all them. I was only involved in kind of getting it all together, but they've written it, they've collated it, and they shot the pictures in it as well. And in this book they say, I'm just quoting a couple of things here, the lens gives you a different perspective. Once you look through the camera, you focus. So taking a photograph of your environment doesn't just have to be a snap. I'm not so much interested in you Instagramming your food photos or your selfies or your view of palm trees. I want self-portraits. I want the view of your high street and the people within, and I want to see what's important to you. Document it. I want to see what the story is. And when you get to this thought, you get to thinking about photography, because you might want to start taking really great pictures, and the auto setting on your camera might not always be the best one. You might want to think about, okay, I'm going to take a picture of the nighttime view of a high street. Well, you have to turn up when it's actually dark, so there's a bit of planning involved, and you might have to learn a little bit about shutter speed and about using a tripod and all those kinds of things. And you have to think about composition as well. And also, why should we be interested in this scene? What's important for you about it, and how do you bring that across? Or you want to take a self-portrait, but you're actually not that keen on having your face shown on social media or on a blog or anything. So you start thinking about, well, maybe if I blur it out a little bit. And also, in a self-portrait, what's actually important about me? What can I tell with that self-portrait? Is my face the most important thing about me, or is there more than I can add to the story? So this is a self-portrait someone took at the service, and it is of the kind of rocking movement that he thinks he takes on when he's actually sitting in a group. So in group therapy, because he's nervous and he doesn't like group that much, he sort of starts to rock around a little bit. Okay, and he had to slow down the shutter speed to actually get that. And it's still a self-portrait, it's still a portrait of himself, just sort of in a slightly different way. So now I know something about this person. Now he's telling me a story, and he's not just showing me his face, and I'm seeing him in a different light. With the group, we would walk around Tottenham quite a lot, and it would often make people feel quite uneasy. You have to imagine these are people who might have problems with confidence and actually needed to boost their confidence previously by taking alcohol or drugs. And you have a big camera in your hand, and someone like me just says, okay, go and capture your life in Tottenham, which is quite challenging, but really the only thing that was challenged was our preconception of this community. People started talking to us about alcohol, so this is a project where we just ask people, write down what you think about alcohol, and it can be positive or negative or whatever, you know, just tell us what you think, and people were so keen to do it. There's another one of those, which I quite liked. So yeah, quite a challenging thing to do, but actually we started to really get to know the people that we see every day on the street, people we meet, and we now know them and we greet them, and what happens is we're engaging with our community, we're seeing them in a different light. So what comes naturally with this kind of process is that you get your understanding of the subject and of the people broadens a little bit. There's another guy that we saw daily, and finally sort of someone had the courage to go into the laundry and take the picture. This was part of a project where we wanted to take pictures of Tottenham in black and white, which seemed a little bit difficult to do to start with because we thought, oh, it might look a bit too, you know, downtrodden or sort of a bit negative. But actually, the challenge was to still make it look positive, and it was very much about portraits of people and just how brilliant people were really, and how brilliant people were reacting to what we were doing. There's also another really important process involved in this whole project, which is looking at an image afterwards, which is what you've sort of started doing today already. You might wonder a little bit more about the people in the frame, and you look at a little bit of more detail. So this picture, if you just look at it on a small LCD screen, it might not seem that interesting, but if you look at it on a big screen, you're like, actually, this is brilliant. This is such a close-up shot of just a bit of moss on a stone somewhere in Tottenham, but it has so much beauty in it. And that realization is a really important connection to make to your photography. Or maybe if we look at a picture of this person, what's that person's look saying to us? The way he looks at us, is that actually matching up with what we're trying to tell about him? Is this the picture we include, or maybe the previous one? Or, you know, what do we know about this person? Are we telling the right kind of story here? Is this our story? And so this is not just all serious, and there's a lot of fun to be had with this. So there's just a lot of kind of slightly random pictures that are just fun in color or in subject. That's just a really interesting one I wanted to include. You know, but again, pictures of dogs and sort of, there's a lot of fun to be had with that. And I think that's something that's not exclusive to people in recovery at all. It's something that you can very much take out into your community and do yourself. Tell your own stories with pictures, not just with selfies, not just with food pictures and pictures of great, beautiful places, but maybe with just, you know, a whole range of things. And you can be as spontaneous as you like. You can be as planned as you like. You can take your time, or you can just get lost in a really happy trigger rush. However, don't be obnoxious. Don't shove your camera or your phone into people's faces. Have respect for people's privacy. Know the law as well, and don't get overrun staring at an LCD screen or trying to change your camera settings, but make memories and create art. Interact with the community while you're doing it, so don't just sort of hide behind your camera. See your environment in a new light and take photographs. Thanks.